My finger was less than a centimeter from the confirmation button when my phone vibrated. Outside the bank's private transaction room, my husband was pounding on the glass. "Megan, send it! Mom doesn't have time!" My mother-in-law, Diane Carlisle, sat in a wheelchair beside him with an oxygen tube under her nose, and her head tilted weakly to one side. My sister-in-law, Kayla, was crying while holding up her phone for a live stream. More than 60,000 people were watching. On my screen was a wire transfer for $920,000. Every dollar had just been released from escrow after I sold the only house my mother had left me. The recipient was a company called Summit Oncology Support, LLC. Nathan, my husband, had already filled in the memo. Advanced cancer treatment deposit for Diane Carlisle. I was about to press confirm. Then my phone vibrated. A secure email from Rocky Mountain University Hospital. Subject: Verification request completed. I opened it. 3 lines. The document number you submitted was not issued by Rocky Mountain University Hospital. The physician's signature does not match the physician identified on the document. No oncology encounter exists under Diane Carlisle's name and date of birth within our system. I read it twice, then a third time. Outside the glass, Nathan pounded again. "Megan!" I pulled my hand away from the screen. My mother-in-law opened her eyes. Nathan pointed at my phone. "Do it!" I looked at Diane through the glass. She was still posed like a woman in the final stage of lung cancer. I tapped. "Cancel transfer." The wire disappeared. Nathan looked at the teller's monitor on the other side of the room, and his expression changed instantly. "What the hell are you doing?" The door opened. He nearly charged inside. "Why did you cancel it?" I looked at him. "The hospital just confirmed your mother's diagnosis papers did not come from them." The room went silent. For 1 second. Then Diane, who had supposedly been too weak to stand for 3 weeks, shot upright from the wheelchair. "What?" The oxygen tube slipped down around her neck. Kayla forgot to cry. Nathan turned toward his mother. I looked at all 3 of them. I had never seen a woman with stage 3 lung cancer sit up that fast. "My name is Megan Carlisle. I was 33. I worked as a senior forensic accountant at an audit and financial advisory firm in Denver. I had been married to Nathan Carlisle for 7 years. 7 years is long enough for a family to get used to you always being the one who pays. It is also long enough for you to confuse sacrifice with belonging. When Nathan's small construction company failed during our 2nd year of marriage, I emptied most of my savings to help him settle payroll taxes and part of his vendor debt. When Kayla finished community college and wanted to transfer to the University of Colorado, Denver, I paid her first 2 semesters because Diane said the family was short on money. When Diane had knee replacement surgery, I worked remotely for 2 weeks and drove her to physical therapy every morning. I never kept a ledger, never asked for repayment, never thought I was supporting anyone. I thought I was helping family. My biggest mistake wasn't giving. It was believing the people receiving would understand the money came from love, rather than obligation. 2 years earlier, I had been pregnant. Our first baby. It had taken Nathan and me almost a year to conceive. I still remembered the night I saw the 2 lines. I handed Nathan the test in the kitchen. He hugged me. He was genuinely happy. I believed that. At 14 weeks, I started cramping while I was at Diane's house preparing food for her birthday dinner. I called Nathan. No answer. Again. Then 17 times. Nothing. Diane watched me holding my abdomen and said, "Sit down for a minute, then finish the potatoes. People will be here soon." I told her, "Something feels wrong." She said, "Pregnant women get cramps all the time." I drove myself to urgent care. They transferred me to the emergency department. The doctor told me there was no fetal heartbeat. Nathan arrived almost 3 hours later. He said his phone had been on silent because he was meeting a client. I didn't ask which client. I only cried. A month later, during Thanksgiving dinner, Diane told a relative, "Megan's body may just be too weak to carry a baby." Kayla added, "Nathan's still young. He can always have one later." Neither of them knew those words would stay in my head for 2 years. Not until I saw my husband's mistress resting a hand on her pregnant belly inside the home my money had nearly paid for. But that day at the bank, I didn't know that part yet. I only knew the medical documents were wrong. 3 weeks before the bank incident, everything had started at Diane's 62nd birthday dinner. Her house was in Aurora, Colorado. About 15 people came. Cake, wine. Kayla live-streamed almost the entire evening because she had more than 300,000 followers across TikTok and Instagram. Her content was family lifestyle, wedding planning, beauty, and real talk. She often filmed Diane in videos like, "My mom rates my outfits," or "Things my sister-in-law does that drive us crazy." I had appeared a few times even though I hated it. That evening, just as everyone was getting ready to sing happy birthday, Diane started coughing. At first, normally. Then harder. She lifted a napkin to her mouth. When she lowered it, there was a dark red stain. Kayla screamed. Nathan rushed toward her. Diane staggered. Then collapsed. We took her to Antero Family Clinic, a small private clinic outside Denver. I tried to go into the exam room with Nathan. He stopped me at the door. "Stay out here with Kayla." "Why?" "The doctor is asking about medical history. Mom gets overwhelmed when too many people are there." "I can help. I'm her son." I looked at him, then sat down. Almost 2 hours later, Nathan came out. His eyes were red. He carried a folder. Lung cancer. For a second, I didn't understand. "What?" "Stage 3. They think it may be in the lymph nodes." Kayla started crying. I asked, "Where's the doctor?" "Handling another case. I want to speak with them. They're referring Mom to Rocky Mountain University Hospital." I opened the folder. There was a CT report, a pathology summary, an oncologist's name, a medical record number, and a proposed treatment plan combining immunotherapy and chemotherapy. It looked real. I was an accountant, not a doctor. I had no idea what a legitimate pathology report was supposed to look like. Nathan said the first round of treatment could still cost more than $150,000 after insurance, because one of the therapies might not be covered. Diane sat in the wheelchair. She took my hand. "I don't want treatment." I stared at her. "The doctor said there's still a chance." "I'm old. You're 62. Save the money for your lives." Kayla dropped to her knees beside her. "Mom, don't say that." Nathan turned his face away. My throat tightened. Diane said, "Megan, keep your money. I don't want the kids selling anything because of me." That sentence was exactly what made me open my banking app that night and send Nathan the first $30,000 for the treatment deposit. No one directly demanded the money. They built a stage where I would offer it myself. A week later, Diane moved into the house Nathan and I shared. She said she was too weak to live alone. I took 2 weeks of unpaid leave. Every morning, I made oatmeal, checked her temperature, organized medication, cleaned the room, and drove her to appointments that Nathan always said had been rescheduled at the last minute. The strange part was that I never met an oncologist. Nathan said, "The consultation was telehealth," or "Mom doesn't want you missing more work," or "Kayla took her." I believed him. Not completely, but enough not to fight. Then one night, Diane coughed up blood again. I was in the kitchen. I heard the coughing and ran upstairs. She was sitting on the bed with a red-stained tissue. I said, "I'm calling 911." She grabbed my wrist immediately. "No!" I stopped. "You're coughing blood." That happens with this disease. That's exactly why we should go to the ER. I don't want to go. I smelled something. Sweet. Not metallic. I looked at the tissue. Diane snatched it away. "What are you doing?" I don't want to be treated like a specimen." I left. 10 minutes later, I came back with water. The room was empty. I heard something downstairs. I went down. Diane was standing in front of the refrigerator. No wheelchair. No hunched posture. No shortness of breath. She was eating pudding. When she saw me, she froze. "What are you doing down here?" "Thirsty." "I was bringing you water." "So I'm not allowed to walk?" I looked at the trash can. A small bottle lay beneath some paper towels. Grenadine syrup. Bright red. I bent down. Diane moved toward me instantly. "You're digging through my trash?" I picked up the bottle. "What do you use this for?" She reached for it. "Drinks." "In the bedroom?" Her expression changed. Then footsteps came down the stairs. Nathan. Kayla too, because she was staying in the guest room that night. Diane immediately pressed a hand to her chest. "My daughter-in-law thinks I'm faking my illness." I stared at her. "I never said that." Nathan turned to me. "Megan, I asked about the syrup. Mom has cancer. Then if she's coughing blood, she should be in the ER." Kayla raised her phone. "Don't film." She lowered it, but said, "What is wrong with you? Mom is dying and you're interrogating her?" Nathan took the bottle from my hand. "Enough," I said. "I want to speak to her doctor." "You don't trust me?" "I want to hear it directly. I gave you the records." "Paper doesn't answer questions." Diane started crying. "Forget it. I'll go home." Kayla hugged her. "Mom, don't." Nathan looked at me as if I were the cruelest person in the kitchen. "Tomorrow I'll give you the hospital contact." He never did. 3 days later, Kayla posted a video. She never named me directly. The title: "When your sick mom feels like a burden in someone else's home." In the video, Diane sat by a window, wearing an oxygen tube, and said, "I don't want my children selling their home because of me." The comments exploded. A good daughter-in-law would sell everything. Imagine choosing property over a mother's life. Some women only care about inheritance. I read exactly 10 comments, then closed the app. That night, Nathan said, "You know the Lakewood house your mom left you is sitting empty." I looked at him. There it was. The Lakewood house was property my mother had left me. 3 bedrooms. Nothing extravagant, but the neighborhood had appreciated steadily. It was worth roughly $1.35 million. My mother bought it when I was still in high school. After she died, her attorney transferred it to me through her separate trust. Separate property. She once told me, "Marry whoever you want. Just never live so completely inside someone else's life that you have nowhere that is still yours." At the time, I thought it sounded old-fashioned. 7 years into marriage, I understood. Nathan said, "If we sell it, Mom's treatment is covered. Insurance? There are out-of-network therapies. Has the hospital financial counselor reviewed it?" "Not yet." "Clinical trials?" "Megan." "What?" "My mother is dying." I went quiet. He said, "The house is empty. That was my mother's house." "I know." "Then stop talking about it like an unused investment unit." Nathan lowered his voice. "I'm not trying to force you." The next day, Kayla went live. She cried. Said, "There's an empty house that could save my mom, but sometimes people care more about bricks than blood." She never named me. She didn't need to. Her followers knew the family story. Someone found my LinkedIn. Someone tagged my employer. HR called. There's a social media issue. We're not judging the family situation, but we need to make sure it doesn't affect client work. My face burned. Not because I thought I would lose my job, because they had turned my separate property into a public referendum on whether I was a good person. A week later, Diane announced she was going on a hunger strike. Not really. She drank protein shakes when she thought no one was watching. But Kayla filmed her pushing away a bowl of soup. Nathan said, "See? I was exhausted. Not sleeping. Working during the day. Caring at night for a woman I increasingly suspected was not sick." Then Nathan brought me a purchase offer. Buyer, Front Range Property Investments LLC. Price, $920,000. I stared at him. The house is worth around 1.3. Cash buyer. Fast close. That's 400,000 below market. Mom doesn't have 3 months to wait. No broker? Not needed. Inspection? They waive it. Title? The closing company handles it. I looked at the offer. The company had been formed less than 3 months earlier. Its address was a shared office in Greenwood Village. Buyer principal, Martin Pike. The name meant nothing to me. Nathan said, "I found them through a business contact." I asked, "Any conflict?" "No. I did not sign. 3 days. 4. Kayla posted another video. Diane fainted during a live stream. Nathan barely spoke to me except about treatment. Eventually, I agreed to let my own real estate attorney review the offer. He said, "The price is low, but the transaction structure isn't obviously illegal. Buyer is putting full cash into escrow, no mortgage contingency." Can I stop before closing? To a point. If you sign a purchase agreement and the buyer fully performs, backing out without cause creates a dispute. I understand. I signed under one condition. Sale proceeds would not be released until deed recording was complete, and there were no lien issues. At least, I thought, the transaction itself would be clean. I didn't know their plan depended on the money ending up in my account just long enough for me to transfer it away voluntarily. Closing was scheduled 3 weeks later. During those 3 weeks, Nathan gave me an invoice. Summit Oncology Support LLC. Deposit requested. $920,000. Exactly the sale price. I stared at it. Same amount? Treatment package. What is this company? Patient Services Coordinator. Not a hospital? They handle drugs, logistics, private care. License? Nathan lost his temper. "Megan, do you have to be a forensic accountant with my mother too?" I looked at him. "I'm a forensic accountant with any $920,000 invoice." He went quiet. I didn't transfer the money. Not then. But the pressure kept building. And by closing day, I still didn't have enough proof to call everything fraud. Only the feeling that something was wrong. So on the morning the sale proceeds were expected to be released, I finally did what I should have done from the beginning. I submitted a verification request through Rocky Mountain University Hospital's Patient Record Fraud Inquiry Channel. I attached a scan of the oncology summary, the document number, the doctor's name, and the consent form Nathan had previously told me Diane signed. I did not ask, "Does this woman have cancer?" I asked, "Was this document issued by your hospital? Is this physician's signature valid? Does this record number exist under this name and date of birth?" The hospital said they needed time. I went to the bank after escrow released the funds. Nathan said Summit required payment that day. Diane came in a wheelchair. Kayla live-streamed. I sat in front of the screen with $920,000 ready to wire. And then the hospital verification arrived. No oncology encounter. No valid document number. No authentic physician signature. I canceled the wire. And the woman who supposedly could not stand shot upright from her wheelchair. That was the moment I knew I was no longer dealing with a greedy family. I was standing in the middle of a fraud scheme. Nathan was the first one to stop pretending. He stormed into the private banking room. "You really canceled it? I want to speak to the hospital." "I already did. I want to do it myself." Diane stood behind him. No wheelchair. Kayla was still holding her phone, but the live stream had been cut. Diane said, "You just made me lose my treatment slot." I looked at her. "The hospital says you've never had an oncology visit there. They made a mistake. The document number isn't theirs. The doctor was private. The signature doesn't match either." Nathan cut in. "Stop." I turned to him. "No." He lowered his voice. "Megan, let's go home and talk." "No." I looked at the banker. "Can you place a note on my account that no wire to Summit Oncology Support is to be processed without my in-person authorization?" The banker nodded. "Yes." Nathan said, "You're overreacting." I laughed. "You handed me a $920,000 invoice from a company that isn't a hospital, based on a diagnosis the hospital says it never issued. My mother is sick. Then take me to a real doctor." No one spoke. Diane suddenly clutched her chest. Kayla stepped toward her. "Mom?" I watched. This time I did not rush over. Diane noticed, then straightened. "You really are heartless." I picked up my purse. "Maybe. How long I have left doesn't matter to you. Give me the oncologist's name." Silence. "The hospital." Nothing. "The biopsy date." Nothing. "The pathology lab." Nothing. I looked at all three of them. Exactly. I walked out. Nathan followed me all the way into the parking garage. "Megan." I kept walking. He grabbed my arm. I spun around. "Don't touch me." He let go. "I can explain." "Good." I pulled out my phone. "Start." Nathan looked around. "Not here." "Why?" "Mom is panicking. Kayla made everything bigger than it needed to be." "I'm asking you." He breathed out. "Mom isn't actually stage 3. The garage went silent. "Keep going." "She has a nodule." "Cancer?" "Not confirmed." "Coughing blood?" He looked down. Mom panicked. "So she faked it?" "Not all of it." I felt my hands go cold. "The medical records?" Vanessa helped put them together. "That name?" I asked. "Vanessa Pike?" Nathan looked up. "Megan," I laughed. Not because anything was funny. "Finally. You know? She runs Summit." Nathan stepped closer. "Listen. Don't." "Vanessa has contacts in medical services. She was only trying to help Mom qualify for private treatment financing." "With fake documents?" "I didn't know the paperwork was fake at first." "At first?" He went silent. "What about later?" Nathan said. It had already gone too far. I stared at the man I had been married to for 7 years. "Did you know your mother did not have cancer when you pushed me to sell the house?" "Megan. Yes or no?" He sat down on the concrete barrier. "Yes." I thought I would cry. I didn't. Sometimes betrayal crosses a certain line and emotion turns into numbers. Dates. Amounts? Who knew? Who signed? I asked. "Why?" Nathan rubbed his face. "My company has debt." "How much?" "Almost 700,000. "You never told me." "I was going to fix it." "With my house?" "No." "Then where was the $920,000 going?" "The treatment fund." I stared at him. He stopped. "I'm asking again," Nathan said quietly. "Vanessa had a plan." "What plan?" "Front Range buys quickly. Summit receives the money. Then." He shut his mouth. I didn't have the full picture yet. But he had admitted two things. He knew the cancer was fake. He knew Vanessa had a plan involving my sale proceeds. I drove straight to the office of an attorney I knew through a forensic matter from 3 years earlier. Her name was Julia Benton, 42, family law and asset tracing. I put the hospital email, the summit invoice, and the Front Range purchase agreement in front of her. I think I was tricked into selling my house. Julia read everything, then asked, "Has the deed recorded?" "This morning." "Funds released?" "Yes." "Money is in your account?" "Yes." "You haven't sent Summit anything?" "No." "Good. But title has already transferred." Julia nodded. "If the buyer participated in fraud, we can seek rescission. That doesn't happen automatically." "What do I do now?" "First, do not spend $1 of the sale proceeds." "I won't." "Second, we send preservation notices and demands to the title company, the buyer, your husband, and Summit. Can we stop them from reselling?" "If we develop enough evidence, we can ask for a temporary restraining order and record a lis pendens. All I have right now is the hospital email. Then we start with public records." I opened my laptop. That part I knew. No passwords, no hacking, no private account access. Colorado Secretary of State records showed Front Range Property Investments, LLC, had been formed 11 weeks earlier. Registered agent, Martin Pike. Principal office, Greenwood Village. Summit Oncology Support, LLC, had been formed 7 months earlier. Registered manager, Vanessa Pike. Same mailing address as another business, Pike Wellness Consulting. I stopped. "Pike," Julia asked. "Do you know them?" "No." I searched Martin Pike. Contractor, small real estate investor, Vanessa Pike, health services consultant, LinkedIn profile, 31 years old, former pharmaceutical sales representative. I stared at her photograph. I had seen her before. I just couldn't place where. Then I remembered. 3 months earlier, Nathan had said he was meeting a commercial developer for dinner. I came by late to bring him a folder he had forgotten. A woman was standing beside him at valet pickup. Nathan introduced her. "Vanessa, consultant for a client." She shook my hand. "Nice to finally meet you." Finally, I had barely noticed the word. Now it came back. I asked Julia, "If Martin and Vanessa are father and daughter, public records may tell us." An obituary for Vanessa's mother did. A charity event post described Martin Pike as Vanessa Pike's father. I sat still. Julia asked, "How well does your husband know Vanessa?" "I don't know." I called someone else. "Not a hacker." A licensed private investigator my firm had previously used for background work in fraud litigation. His name was Owen Marlowe. I told him, "I need lawful surveillance and public record research. No trespass, no hacking, no pretext calls to banks," he said. "Good. That's also how I work." 2 days later, Julia filed an emergency motion asking the court to temporarily prevent Front Range from selling or encumbering the Lakewood property while the fraud claim was investigated. At that stage, our evidence was the fake medical document, the relationship between the buyer and the manager of the recipient company, the exact same $920,000 amount, the compressed sales timeline, the below-market price, and the plan to move the entire sale proceeds immediately after closing. The judge issued a short temporary order, preserving the status quo, and scheduled a hearing. I did not magically get the house back. They simply could not make it disappear. I did not go home to Nathan. I collected clothes while he was at work, with Julia accompanying me. Diane had returned to her own house. Kayla wasn't there. Nathan came home while I was packing my personal laptop. "You're leaving?" For now. Because of one email? Because you can't answer one simple question. I'll answer now. Name the oncologist. He stopped. I stared at him. See? Megan, Mom isn't really stage 3. The whole house seemed to go quiet. Keep talking. There is a nodule. Cancer? Not confirmed. Blood? He looked down. Mom panicked. So fake? Not all of it. My fingers went numb. The records? Vanessa helped make them. I asked again. Vanessa Pike? Nathan looked at me. Megan. I gave a bitter laugh. Finally. You know, she manages Summit. Nathan stepped toward me. Listen. Don't. Vanessa has contacts. She was trying to help Mom qualify for private treatment financing. With forged medical documents? I didn't know they were fake at first. At first. He went quiet. And later? It went too far. I stared. Did you know there was no cancer when you asked me to sell my mother's house? Megan? Yes or no? He sat down. Yes. I thought I would cry. I didn't. Sometimes betrayal stops feeling emotional and starts feeling like an audit. Who knew? When? How much? I asked. Why? My company has debt. How much? Nearly 700,000. You never told me. I thought I could solve it. With my house? No. Then what happens to the $920,000? The treatment account. I stared. He stopped. I asked, what happens after Summit gets it? Nathan said, Vanessa had a structure. What structure? Front Range buys quickly. Summit gets the money. Then? He stopped again. But it was enough. Julia was standing near the hallway. She said, Mr. Carlyle, from this point forward, I recommend you speak to counsel before continuing. Nathan looked at her. This is my house, Julia replied calmly. It is also my client's residence. I'm here at her invitation. Nathan turned back to me. You brought a lawyer into our marriage? I brought a lawyer into a fraud problem. I closed the suitcase. Julia, let's go. Nathan called. Megan. I stopped. I love you. I turned around. Don't say that after admitting you knew your mother didn't have cancer. I left. 3 days later, Owen sent his first report. Nothing illegal, only observation from public areas. Nathan had been visiting a townhouse in Cherry Creek North. The property was owned by VJP Residential LLC. Manager, Vanessa J. Pike. Owen photographed Nathan entering with a key. On one occasion, he came onto the balcony with Vanessa. She wore an oversized sweater. Her pregnancy was obvious. Around 6 months, Nathan placed a hand on her belly. She smiled. I stared at the photograph for a long time. 2 years earlier, when I was pregnant, Nathan had skipped one ultrasound because of a meeting. He told me, send me the video. Now his hand rested on another woman's stomach, as if that was the most natural place in the world. Owen sent something else. A design firm had accidentally published part of a private interior portfolio too early. Project: Carlisle Pike Residence, Cherry Creek. Master bedroom, nursery. Home office. One staging image included an engagement-style photograph of Nathan and Vanessa. Not wedding pictures, but enough. I did not need more proof that the marriage was dead. I needed more proof of where the money was going. Through the divorce filing and the civil fraud case, Julia requested expedited discovery. The court permitted limited discovery into transactions related to the sale proceeds and the alleged fraud. Subpoenas went to the title company, Front Range, Summit, Nathan, and specifically identified bank records under court order. No one hacked anything. No one stole account statements. 2 weeks later, we had the diagram. Martin Pike had taken a $920,000 bridge loan from a private lender. Front Range used that money to buy my house. After closing, Summit issued an invoice for exactly $920,000. If I wired it, Summit intended to transfer $780,000 to Pike Holdings as a consulting distribution. Pike Holdings had a draft wire set up to repay Martin's bridge lender. The remainder, $100,000, was intended for Kayla through a brand partnership agreement. $40,000 would stay as fees. But there was more. An email produced by Summit in response to subpoena had the subject, "After resale." Vanessa wrote to her father, "Once title is clean, list at 1.28 minimum. Nathan's share pays construction debt. Rest goes toward Cherry Creek principal." Martin replied, "What about Megan challenge?" Vanessa, "She'll have signed and transferred the medical money voluntarily. Nathan says divorce after." I read it. Julia sat across from me. "That's the smoking gun for civil fraud." I asked. "Criminal? That's for prosecutors. Kayla? Her brand agreement is $100,000. Did she know?" "We don't know how much." Another email answered part of it. Kayla to Vanessa, "I need my 100 before wedding deposits. I'm getting killed online defending this." Vanessa replied, "You'll get it when Megan wires." I closed my eyes. I had paid for Kayla's first 2 semesters at university. She had used her followers to pressure me into selling my house, and then billed the scheme $100,000 for doing it. Julia said, "We need to report this." I nodded. The district attorney's economic crime unit received a packet through counsel. No one was arrested immediately. They opened a review. At the same time, the temporary restraining order was extended because discovery now showed the buyer was directly connected to the recipient company and there was a planned resale. Front Range could not sell the house. Nathan texted constantly, "Please talk to me. I can fix this. Mom is sorry. Kayla didn't know everything. Vanessa lied to me too." I answered none of it, until Kayla posted another video. Title: "My sister-in-law stole cancer money from my mom." She cried. Diane sat beside her wearing oxygen. Within 12 hours, the video had more than 400,000 views. Kayla said I sold the house, received the money, then withheld cancer treatment, left my husband, and threatened to sue a sick woman. Comments flooded my LinkedIn. My employer called again. This time, I did not stay completely silent. Not with a rant. I emailed HR. "This is the subject of pending civil fraud litigation. Counsel can provide the public filings. I will not litigate the matter on social media." 2 days later, one of Kayla's sponsoring brands commented, "We are aware of the allegations and reviewing." Kayla sent me a message. "If you have any conscience left, come on live and explain yourself." I forwarded it to Julia. She asked, "Do you want to?" "I want them to stop using cameras to corner me." "Then don't go." I showed her another message. Sunday, 7 p.m. "Mom wants a public apology. If you don't come, we'll tell everyone you admitted it." I looked up. "If I go, can I use court-filed materials?" "Anything in the public record, the hospital verification you lawfully obtained, and evidence you own. Absolutely nothing sealed." "I don't need sealed discovery." Julia studied me. "What are you thinking?" "I think they built this entire stage from the beginning. And, this time, I want them to sit on it." She was silent for a moment. "Then we script every sentence." Sunday evening, I arrived at Diane's house at 6:40. Julia came with me, but stayed in her car at the end of the block. I did not bring a hidden camera. I didn't need one. Kayla had set up 3 cameras of her own. A ring light, a microphone, a laptop displaying her live stream dashboard. The living room had been arranged like a talk show. Diane sat in the middle of the sofa. oxygen tube, blanket over her legs. Nathan stood on the right, Kayla on the left. A folder sat on the coffee table. I knew what was inside because Nathan had already texted me. Just sign the agreement to transfer the money and the divorce papers. We can end this civilly. Civilly. A family that faked cancer, bought my house through the father of my husband's mistress, and planned to recycle the purchase money through a shell company called forcing me to sign away everything civil. Kayla looked up when I came in. You actually came. I said I would. She lowered her voice. Don't make a scene. I looked at the 3 cameras. Interesting advice. Diane said, Megan, I just want this to end. I no longer called her mom. Fine. Nathan moved closer. We can talk privately first. No. Megan, you wanted public. We'll do public. Kayla heard that and visibly relaxed. She thought I had surrendered. At exactly 7, the live stream began. The viewer count climbed. 20,000. 40,000. 40,000. 85,000. Kayla opened with a trembling voice. Hi everyone. This is difficult. Our family has been going through a crisis. My mom has been battling cancer. I looked at Diane. She lowered her head at exactly the right moment. Kayla continued. And unfortunately, money that was supposed to pay for treatment was withheld after my sister-in-law sold a property specifically to help. Comments raced across the screen. Heartless. Pay the bill. Why is she even there? Kayla turned the camera toward me. Megan, do you want to say anything to Mom first? I sat down. Yes. Diane looked at me. You want me to apologize? Kayla said, Mom doesn't need... Diane interrupted. I just want you to understand. Understand what? That money is not more important than a human life. I nodded. I agree. Nathan looked relieved. Then I continued, which is why I wanted to verify that there was actually a human life receiving the treatment before I sent $920,000. The room froze. Kayla forced a laugh. Here we go again. I took out a printed document. This is the verification from Rocky Mountain University Hospital. I did not show anyone else's medical information. There was no other patient's name. Only the hospital's confirmation that the document number had not been issued by the hospital. The physician's signature did not match, and there was no oncology encounter under Diane Carlisle's name and date of birth. Kayla glanced at the screen. Fake. I have a QR code linked to a secure verification letter Hospital Counsel allowed me to share in the civil case. Julia had prepared it. I held it up. Kayla didn't scan. I placed it in front of the camera. The comments began changing. Wait, what? Is that hospital letter real? Why no oncology visit? Diane said, That isn't the only hospital where I went. I nodded. Then where? She was silent. Antero Family Clinic? Nathan cut in. Megan, enough. My attorney contacted the clinic. I took out another public filing. They confirmed they never performed a biopsy and never diagnosed Diane Carlisle with cancer. Their only record was an urgent care visit 11 months ago for bronchitis. Diane stood. The oxygen tube slipped. I looked at her. The comments exploded. She stood up. I thought she couldn't walk. Kayla said, Mom can still stand? I replied calmly, I never said she couldn't. I held up a photograph of the grenadine bottle. The original bottle was already preserved through counsel. I found this in her bedroom after one of the times she supposedly coughed blood. Diane shouted, You went through my things. I looked at her. What did you use the syrup for? Drinks. In the bedroom? You're trying to humiliate me. Nathan stood. Stop the live stream. Kayla looked at the viewer count. More than 160,000. She didn't stop it. The engagement was too high. That was her next mistake. I said, "Fine. We don't need to argue about the syrup." I placed the public filing for Front Range Property Investments on the table. "This is the company that bought my house," Kayla said. "So?" "The principal is Martin Pike." Then I placed the Summit Oncology Support filing beside it. "And this is the company that asked for the exact same $920,000 as medical treatment. Manager, Vanessa Pike." I showed the public obituary and business records establishing that Martin was Vanessa's father. The comments changed completely. "Same family? So the buyer's daughter gets the medical money? This sounds insane." Nathan said, "That doesn't prove anything." "Correct." I looked at him. "Not by itself." I pulled out the public civil complaint stamped by the court clerk. Nothing sealed. The complaint alleged the house had been purchased at a below-market price. The recipient company was related to the buyer. The seller had been induced by false cancer representations. The wire had been canceled after hospital verification, and I was seeking rescission of the deed. I said, "The court has already issued a temporary order preventing the buyer from selling or encumbering the property while the fraud claim is pending." Kayla looked at Nathan. Diane said, "They bought the house legally." I turned to her. "Do you know Martin Pike?" "No." "Vanessa Pike." She hesitated. Nathan said, "Don't answer." Diane turned toward him. "Why not? She's just the woman helping with the treatment." I looked at her. "So you do know Vanessa?" Diane realized what she had said. Kayla said quickly, "Everyone knows healthcare people!" I took out the photograph Owen had lawfully taken from a public street. Nathan on the balcony of the Cherry Creek townhouse. Vanessa beside him, pregnant, his hand on her stomach. I placed it in front of the camera. The room went silent. Kayla stared at her brother. Diane closed her eyes. Nathan said, "Megan." I asked, "How long has she been pregnant?" "Don't." "I'm not asking the internet to diagnose her. I'm asking you." He didn't answer. I said, "Say it." Nathan looked at the cameras, then at me. "About 6 months." Something small closed inside me. Not a heart breaking. That had happened earlier. This was more like a door shutting. Kayla hid the comment feed from the monitor. The live stream kept running. I asked, "Are you in a relationship with Vanessa?" Nathan said, "Yes." "While still married to me?" "Yes." "Did Diane know?" Nathan turned toward his mother. Diane shouted, "Don't drag me into this." I didn't need to ask again. She said it herself. "I just wanted a grandchild." The words came out faster than she could stop them. Kayla closed her eyes. The livestream chat exploded. I said, "And because you wanted a grandchild, you faked cancer to take my house?" Diane stood fully upright. "The house was empty. Vanessa is carrying Nathan's son. They need a stable home." Nathan shouted, "Mom!" Diane snapped back, "You be quiet. This was all for you." I no longer needed to interrogate anyone. Greed had started talking for itself. Kayla stood. "Stop. Stop." Nathan turned on her. "You were getting 100,000 too." Kayla went white. "You promised." Nathan laughed bitterly. "Then stop pretending you didn't know." Kayla shouted, "You said it was family settlement money. You made the videos pressuring Megan. Because you told me Mom really had a nodule." Diane shouted, "Don't put this on me." Kayla spun toward her. "Mom, you're the one who used the syrup." The room was silent for exactly 1 second. Then the comments exploded again. "There it is. She admitted the syrup. This is fraud. Call the police." Diane lunged toward Kayla's phone. Kayla pulled back. Nathan shouted, "Turn it off!" Kayla finally ended the live stream. At that moment, there had been nearly 240,000 concurrent viewers. But clips had already been screen recorded. Not by me, by the internet. I sat there, not triumphant, just exhausted. Nathan looked at me. "What do you want?" I looked at the folder on the table. "What is that?" He didn't answer. I pulled it closer. Document 1. Acknowledgement that sale proceeds were voluntarily designated for Diane's medical care. Document 2. Marital separation agreement. Document 3. Waiver of claims against Nathan Carlisle, Diane Carlisle, Kayla Carlisle, Summit Oncology Support, and Front Range Property Investments. I laughed. "So if I sign this, you want me to lose the house, lose the money, and give up my right to sue?" Nathan said. "The lawyer said it would let everyone move on." "What lawyer?" He said nothing. I picked up the separation agreement. The first page simply acknowledged that the marriage had irretrievably broken down. I signed that portion. I did not sign the waiver. I pushed the papers back. "Divorce is fine." Nathan stared. "And the rest?" "Everyone answers for what they did." "Megan, I am not carrying one more dollar of this." I stood. Diane said, "You destroyed this family." I looked at her. "I canceled one wire. The rest came out of your own mouths." I left. Outside, Julia was waiting in the car. "How live was it?" "Very." "Did you disclose sealed discovery?" "No." "Did you accuse anyone of a crime?" "I used public filings, the hospital verification, and a lawful photograph. They supplied the rest." Julia exhaled. "Good." I got into the passenger seat. Kayla admitted the syrup. Julia closed her eyes. Of course she did. Diane admitted she knew about Vanessa's pregnancy. Of course. Nathan said Kayla was getting 100,000. Julia gave a humorless laugh. Family live streams, a prosecutor's favorite genre. I stared out the window. What now? Now we stop performing and let the court do its job. After the live stream, nothing ended overnight. The internet moves fast. The law does not. By Monday morning, the live stream had been cut into hundreds of clips. One clip of Diane shouting, "The house was empty." One of Kayla saying, "Mom, you're the one who used the syrup." One of Nathan admitting Vanessa was 6 months pregnant. One of me saying, "Everyone answers for what they did." Hashtags started trending. I didn't search them. HR called. This time, they did not ask whether my personal life was creating reputational risk for the firm. The chief people officer said, "Megan, we reviewed the public filings and the hospital verification. The company will issue an internal note confirming that this is a private legal matter and that there is no finding of professional misconduct on your part. Thank you. Your promotion review was previously paused because of reputational uncertainty." I know. The committee is reopening it. I did not burst into tears. I simply felt one part of my life slowly moving back into its proper place. The district attorney's economic crime unit contacted Julia that week. They had already received our packet before the live stream. The public admissions created new leads, but prosecutors still had to corroborate them. They obtained bank records through subpoenas, business filings, communications among Nathan, Vanessa, Martin, and Kayla through warrants or lawful consent, closing records, metadata from the fake medical documents, and testimony from Antero Family Clinic. The fake oncology summary had been created from a template purchased online. The physician's name had been copied from Rocky Mountain University Hospital's public website. The document number had been invented. Vanessa edited the file. Nathan printed it and gave it to me. Diane knew she did not have cancer. Kayla knew her mother was performing illness to create pressure. Although at first she did not understand all the details involving Front Range and Summit. Martin understood that the property transaction was part of the circular money plan. Nathan knew the house would be resold and that his share of the proceeds would go toward his own debts. Not everyone knew everything. That mattered. I did not want to tell a version of the story where every villain was equally guilty. They weren't. Vanessa and Nathan designed the scheme. Martin provided the vehicle and bridge financing. Diane willingly faked the illness because she believed my house should be used for her grandson. Kayla turned family pressure into content and accepted the promise of $100,000. Each person contributed differently. The civil case moved faster than the criminal case. Julia sought rescission of the sale. Front Range initially fought it. Martin argued the purchase agreement was valid, the price was low but voluntarily accepted, and the funds had been fully paid. Julia presented the false medical inducement, the father-daughter relationship between Martin and Vanessa, the Summit invoice matching the purchase price, the after-resale email lawfully produced in discovery, and Diane's and Kayla's public admissions. The judge did not simply hand the house back to me after one short hearing. There was discovery, negotiation. Then Martin, facing both a civil fraud claim and a criminal investigation, agreed to settle. The terms were simple. I returned the full $920,000 purchase proceeds. Front Range executed a quitclaim deed reconveying the property. The buyer side absorbed the abnormal transaction costs. The lis pendens would be released after the new deed recorded, and there could be no resale before title was restored. I did not keep the money. I did not profit. I got back the thing I had been tricked into selling. The day the title company emailed confirmation that the deed had recorded back into my name, I sat in my car outside the office. I didn't cry at first. I opened an old email my mother had sent years earlier after her estate attorney completed the trust transfer. Subject: House. She had written, "You don't have to live there forever. Just remember that sometimes a house isn't about living in it. It's about knowing you always have somewhere you can go." I read it. Then I cried. Not because I had won, because I had nearly signed that sentence out of my own life. The criminal case took nearly 10 months. There was no scene where everyone was handcuffed together. Vanessa was charged with fraud conspiracy, forgery related to the medical documents, and participation in the attempted theft scheme. Nathan was charged with conspiracy and fraudulent inducement related to the sale proceeds. Martin was charged with conspiracy and financial facilitation. Kayla was not charged as a core conspirator after investigators concluded she knew about the fake illness and the public pressure campaign, but had not designed the money flow between the two LLCs. She still faced a civil claim for defamation and intentional harassment. Diane did not go to prison either. She was 62, had no prior criminal record, and did not control the companies. But she had signed false statements in several demand letters and participated in inducing the sale. Under a state plea resolution, she received probation, community service, and restitution obligations tied to investigative and civil costs. Vanessa entered a plea. Nathan eventually did too, after prosecutors secured emails and bank evidence. I never asked for a particular sentence. I only submitted a victim impact statement. I wrote, "I did not ultimately lose the house, but only because I stopped the transfer before the money left my account. If the hospital email had arrived a few minutes later, I could have lost both the house and the money, along with much of my ability to prove the flow of funds. This was not one lie inside a family. It was a sequence of actions designed to make me voluntarily sign away my rights one step at a time." Nathan received a short custodial sentence, followed by supervised release under his plea agreement. along with civil cost reimbursement and a judgment tied to his own debts. Vanessa received a heavier sentence because of her role in producing the fake medical records and coordinating the entities. Martin received strict supervised probation and financial penalties after cooperating early and helping unwind the property transaction. I did not memorize the exact number of months. I did not keep the sentencing orders in a drawer. I only needed to know the cases had reached the place they belonged. The divorce was simpler than the criminal case, not painless. Nathan wanted part of his construction company debt treated as marital debt. Julia demanded tracing. Statements showed that much of the newer borrowing had funded the Cherry Creek deposit, payments to Vanessa, and business debts Nathan had personally guaranteed after the affair had already begun. Not every debt created during marriage automatically became his alone. Some household expenses were still marital, but the amounts tied to the affair, the fraudulent scheme, and assets that did not benefit our household were handled separately through the settlement, based on tracing and dissipation claims. The Lakewood house remained my separate property under my mother's trust. Nathan had no ownership claim. The house we had shared was sold. Equity was divided under the settlement. Retirement accounts were handled by agreement. No one walked away with everything. I walked away with what was mine, and no longer carrying what belonged to them. On the final day of mediation, Nathan asked if he could speak to me privately. Julia waited one room away. I agreed to 5 minutes. Nathan looked older. I'm sorry. I looked at him. For what? He hesitated. Years earlier, I'm sorry for everything might have softened me. Now I needed nouns. He said, for Mom, for Vanessa, for the house, for what happened when you lost the baby. I went still. Nathan looked down. That day you called 17 times. I wasn't in a client meeting. I knew before he finished. You were with Vanessa? No. I waited. Not then. Then where? Poker night with some business guys. I closed my eyes. Part of me had always hoped that at least on the day I lost our baby, he had been unavailable because of something important. No. He had simply silenced his phone because he didn't want to be interrupted. Nathan said, I lied because I knew how terrible it made me look. I lost our baby alone. I know. No. I looked at him. You know now. He cried. I didn't. Vanessa said, once we had a son, we could start over differently. Mom also. I don't need this. Nathan stopped. Don't explain more. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I don't know. Do you hate me? I'm too tired to hate you. He looked at me. So this is really over. I nodded. Yes. Nathan lowered his head. I stood. Before I left, he said, Megan. I turned. I never understood what that house meant to you. I know. That was probably the truest thing he had ever said. Kayla lost the thing she valued most. Her audience. Not forever. People are rarely erased from the internet for life because of one scandal. But 3 major brands terminated their contracts. Several of her accounts were demonetized because of deceptive fundraising-related content and targeted harassment. A wedding planner she had partnered with also withdrew. Kayla's fiancé, Jordan, postponed the wedding. Later, they broke up. I never knew whether it was because of the promised $100,000. I only knew his family wanted nothing to do with the litigation. Kayla posted an apology video. No makeup. No music. No crying filter, she said. I used my platform to pressure someone in my family when I did not have all the facts. I also knew my mother was exaggerating her health condition and continued filming anyway. It wasn't perfect. But for the first time, she said, I did. Not. I was misled. I did not forgive her immediately. I did not comment. My career recovered more slowly than the internet moved. The promotion committee did not elevate me because they felt sorry for me. They reopened my review. I still had to complete a major forensic engagement for a healthcare client. 3 months later, the managing partner called. "Megan, the committee voted." I sat down. "Director of Forensic Accounting." I exhaled. "Thank you. This isn't because of your story. I know. It's because of the work." I know. That was what I needed. Not sympathy, just the correct value. 10 months after the bank incident, Diane called. I nearly didn't answer. Unknown number. "Megan." I recognized her voice. "What do you need?" She sounded different. No performance. Real coughing. Hard. "I'm sick." I stayed quiet. She said, "Lung cancer." A cold feeling moved through me. I did not laugh. Did not say karma. Diane had smoked for nearly 30 years before quitting 8 years earlier. I knew that. I had once encouraged her to get low-dose CT screening, but she never followed through. This time, the diagnosis was real. Squamous cell lung cancer. Not the same fake stage 3 diagnosis she had used before. Real doctor. Real hospital. Real pathology. Diane started crying. The first time I actually coughed blood, Kayla thought I was using syrup again. I closed my eyes. I thought maybe it was nothing too. "Are you being treated?" "Yes." "Insurance?" "Medicare and a supplemental plan. So why are you calling me?" Silence. I knew. "Money." I said, "I'm not paying for treatment." Diane cried. "Mom!" She still called herself that automatically. I didn't correct her. "Megan, I know I have no right to ask." "You don't. But there's an immunotherapy." "I'm not wiring money." She went quiet. I opened my laptop, found the manufacturer's patient assistance program, and a local nonprofit. "I'll text you 2 links. The hospital should also have a financial navigator. Ask them to help with the applications." "You won't come see me?" I thought. "Not now." "I'm sorry." "I know." "Do you believe me this time?" I looked out the window. "Yes." "Then why?" "Believing that you're sick does not mean I return to being the person who pays." Diane cried softly. I sent the links, then ended the call. I did not think I was cruel. A boundary does not become meaningless because the person on the other side finally has a real need. I could still point to help. I did not have to turn myself into an ATM again. A year later, I moved back into the Lakewood house. Not because I couldn't afford somewhere else. Because I wanted to. I remodeled the kitchen, replaced the roof, repainted the room my mother used to sleep in, changed every lock. Not because Nathan still had a key, because I wanted to hear the sound of new locks closing behind me. I planted lavender by the front steps. My mother loved it. In an old box, I found the wind chime she used to hang by the kitchen window. I hung it again. On my first evening sleeping there, I placed my mother's photograph on a shelf. No altar, no family ritual from Nathan's side. Just one framed photograph and a small vase of flowers, the way my mother would have liked it. I sat on the floor and said, "Mom, I kept the house." No one answered. Wind moved through the open window and the chime rang. No miracle. The window was open, but I smiled anyway. That day at the bank, I thought I had been choosing between a house and a human life. Their entire scheme depended on the belief that I would always choose sacrifice. And they were right about the old version of me. I had paid my husband's debts, paid my sister-in-law's tuition, cared for my mother-in-law, put promotions on hold, lost a baby and still showed up to Thanksgiving dinner. Not because I was weak, because I thought loving a family meant always being able to absorb a little more pain. But a real family does not test your love by asking how much more you are willing to lose. The hospital email did not save me because it was magical. It arrived at the right moment and forced me to do something I had forgotten how to do. Stop, check, ask questions. Don't send money because someone is crying. Don't sign because a camera is rolling. Don't sell your last safety net just to prove you are a good person. I used to think the biggest moment of retaliation was Diane springing out of her wheelchair. It wasn't. It wasn't Kayla admitting the syrup on livestream. It wasn't Nathan admitting Vanessa was pregnant. It wasn't the deed returning to my name. The biggest moment was something much smaller. I moved my finger away from the confirmation button. That was all. One transfer did not go through, and because one transfer did not go through, the entire system they had built to take my house, take my money, and push me out of my marriage began to collapse. Years earlier, my mother told me the house was my way out. I understood too late. A way out is not where you run after losing. Sometimes it is the thing that reminds you that you do not have to stay somewhere just to prove you are worthy of being loved.